A Lancet study finds there is an outrageously high amount of excess deaths post-COVID-19. Don't worry if you haven't heard about it, mainstream media. Make sure that you didn't. Before the election really heats up, we're going to tell you guys what you need to keep in mind so you can get through it. Why on earth is the medical industry determined to kill you? And I'm sure you'll be happy to know that your pilots are no longer being chosen based on their test scores or flying skills or flight hours. That would make too much sense. Not in this America. Instead, their race or gender or weird, creepy sexual fetishes are taking a front seat in the cockpit. No pun intended. All that and more, and it all starts right now. Welcome back to The Joe Mobley Show. I am your host, Joe Mobley, the original uncloseted conservative, joined tonight by the one and only outspoken Samantha. We've got an amazing show for you, but before we get into that, let's get into this. This episode is brought to you by Z-Stack Life. Guys, Z-Stack is not a cure for COVID or any other illness. What the powers that be, whether they be the FDA or YouTube or elsewhere, allow me to say about Z-Stack is this. It's an immune booster and a nutritional supplement. It's not a cure for illness, including COVID. However, it is a highly effective immune system boosting supplement. Dr. Zelenko was a severely immunocompromised individual, and he credited his survival so long into the pandemic to Z-Stack. Z-Stack is Dr. Z's flagship product. As a Z-Stack customer, you know exactly what is, and maybe more importantly, what isn't in it. Z-Stack's got zinc, quercetin, vitamin C, and vitamin D. Now, in the thick of 2020, you couldn't even list that ingredients list together on the internet. I'll let you make up your own mind why that was, but smart listeners like you have done their own research and learned exactly how powerful vitamin C, zinc, and quercetin can be together against colds. Zinc is what your body needs to create the cellular balance that fights and prevents illness. However, zinc cannot enter your cell unless there is a zinc ionophore. Now that's a big word for you to Google, which allows it into the cell. You might recognize the two most popular ionophores, hydroxychloroquine, censored, and ivermectin, censored again. But midway into COVID, doctors discovered quercetin is also a zinc-activating ionophore, and it's available over the counter. Think of vitamin C and zinc as a bullet and quercetin as a gun. Alone, parts are useless, but together they're quite powerful. All Z-Stack Life vitamins are kosher certified, GMP certified, 100% made in the USA in an FDA certified facility. Guys, Dr. Z devoted his life to medicine, and his protocols have saved countless lives. Millions of people have taken the Dr. Z Lives in Me pledge, and you can too. Go to thejoemobleyshow.com/ZStack for the very best prices on all Z-Stack vitamins. Use promo code Mobley at checkout for even more savings. thejoemobleyshow.com/ZStack, promo code Mobley. Woo, that is a long ad read. Guys, I did it. And now we're back into the things. Goodness gracious, that's just a minute? That seemed like 5 minutes of reading.
I know. I was about to go take a nap. So.
Yeah, seriously, you and me both. Anyway, I don't know.
Like,
I don't know about that.
Show. I was like, that's all the time we have tonight, guys.
Seriously. Hey, you know, it felt that way for me too. All right. We are streaming on Rumble. It worked. Thank you guys at Rumble. I was on with your customer service literally this morning, so I can see your comments. Samantha, how are you doing this, what is it, second, third week of the new year?
I am hanging in there. You know what I did not know until maybe this morning?
Uh-oh.
That there was a Republican debate last night. I have to say, like I had absolutely no idea that this was a thing that was going on last night until I woke up this morning and saw all of these news articles about Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis going back and forth at the debate, and I was like, oh, there was a debate last night.
Yeah, seriously, because it wasn't newsworthy. I think
No,
what's his name, Krispy Kreme.
Chris Christie.
Yes. I listen to too much Dan Bongino. Chris Christie, yeah, he was talking about, or no, he dropped out. I guess he dropped out sometime yesterday before the debate or after or whatever.
Yep.
And yeah, it wasn't news. What's his name? Vivek and Candace Owens were on Timcast. They were doing like a competitor event
Okay.
to the debate, which probably had more views. But
Probably.
yeah, well, we're definitely not talking about that because we didn't watch the debate. I mean, she didn't even know a debate was happening. Honestly, I didn't realize. I forgot the debate was happening until about 30 minutes into Timcast, like side by side event, and I'm like, oh yeah, Vivek, aren't you supposed to be at that debate? And he's like, no, I'm not going to these either. Neither of the important candidates were there, so
Yep.
I wonder what the
Absolutely.
ratings were. Did you watch any
I
clips from it?
Nope. I read an Epic Times article about it, and that's as much as I got. And I thought about adding in clips to our show planner, but I was just like, I don't even care. If I'm being 100% honest, I don't care enough to even include a clip.
I
Um,
agree.
why is
I
that? Do you think
agree.
that people are just not interested because Trump isn't there? They just are so convinced that he's going to be the nominee. They just don't care about these other candidates, or just so caught up in everything else going on that it's like, you know what? Just let me know when who the nominee is, and we'll cross that bridge. At this point, I don't care.
Maybe. I,
Yeah.
I I couldn't even tell you why I don't care. I just don't. I Yeah. I mean, debates are just terrible anyway because they're not. American politicians aren't skilled in debate. Um, Making a statement, illustrating the point, and then putting kind of a succinct little bow on it. They don't have the intellectual prowess to do that. They're not skilled in prose. They're not skilled in logic sets. They use fallacies everywhere. Listening to a Democrat talk about gun control or listening to a Republican talk about national security, they just use fallacies just all the time. It drives me crazy. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Goodness gracious.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't watch the debates, but we did do tons of research for the show. So the first thing we got for you guys, I came across this video on YouTube, and it was super interesting. I thought, YouTube, why are you serving me this? This is a weird thumbnail here of some chick like doing the hair. That I don't know why she chose that as a thumbnail. There's nothing on it, but it just says excess deaths. How much longer can this horror story be suppressed? And I thought, I'm intrigued. I've got 11 and a half minutes for this. Well, it turns out just a little while ago, the Lancet, the famous medical publishing body across the pond, the Ivy League, if you will, of medical studies, they put out a series of studies, but this one entitled Excess Mortality in England and Post-COVID-19 Pandemic, Implications for Secondary Prevention. Now, what's interesting is if you really dive deep into this, they excluded some other places that could have been included in the study, but that would have made it a bigger problem. So they were like, oh, let's shrink it down to just England. And what they found were there were several hundreds of percent, 400 or 500% increase in this population, 400% increase in this other population. And the populations are adults from 20 to 40, and the other group I don't know. It's 20 to 55 and then 56 and older. 56 to 64 or 65. I think those are the two groups. Pop open the study. Links will be there for you. It is literally called, if you type in excess mortality in England or Lancet study, it'll pop up. But the weird thing for people like us looking at it is the manner of death. Most of these people were having cardiovascular events and they were dying at home. And what that means is that they didn't have chronic illness. They didn't have these murmurs or palpitations. They weren't going to the doctor. They didn't even have an event where an ambulance could come to them and take them to the emergency room. They just died at home, just dead, which is exceedingly rare for people in their 20s and 30s to just die at home from cardiovascular incident. And it just makes me wonder, why is no one talking about this? We don't know why they're dead. We don't know why 500% more 20 to 50, 40-year-olds are dying in England. Post COVID-19, that's a connection that the medical gurus at Lancet made, not me. But what do you think about that? Why don't you think that's on CNN? They had a death ticker for like 2.5 years, but this doesn't interest them.
With for the longest time, it's like that's all that the media could talk about was how many people were dying from COVID-19. It was just this mass obsession with COVID-19, making sure that every single time someone dropped from COVID, we all had to hear about it. And I don't say this to make light of it. It's unfortunate that this is happening, but I think when it comes to whatever, I think we can all agree on this. When it comes to what the media covers, it's about the narrative. What's the current narrative? What is the agenda? What's the objective? And what events can be used to push that narrative? They had to use COVID deaths to make Trump look like a monster that only wanted grandma to die, and that if he was put in office again, that even more people would die. And that's essentially what all of it was about.
Which was a hallmark of his presidency. He got in office and said, "I'm coming to kill your grandma." Yeah,
exactly. And even more grandmas are dead now that Biden's in office. But, so there was that, but they also needed to use COVID as a means of justifying all of these changes to the voting system so that more people would use their ballots. And of course, 100%. That leaves more opportunity for fraud. At this point, when it comes to all of these excess deaths, there's no agenda right now. It's not something that they can say right now because it's too far out from the election to be able to drag it out 11 months and say, this is why we need people to vote by mail. I think people are a little bit... That's what
people thought with COVID, which started in March. But, I mean, they can stretch a crisis, apparently.
They can stretch a crisis, but at the same time, I think they know that at least most of us have learned our lesson, and that there is... when they say that they're doing things to keep us safe and healthy, that they're not actually doing things to keep us safe and healthy. So they also had the benefit of COVID. Like, we didn't know exactly what it was. We didn't know what the treatments were, or at least they could manipulate the information enough to say that we don't know what this is, even though we learned pretty early on what it was and what the treatment options were and who it was affecting. They at least had the opportunity, because it was a newer virus, to say that we don't have information, and they could control that. They don't have that benefit right now. So they're not talking about it because there's nothing here that they can use. And because I thought a lot about this when I saw your question about this, and they know that if they start pointing to these excess deaths, then they have to point to what the cause is. Is it COVID? Is it the vaccines? Is it any of these other things that are related?
Is it Donald Trump?
Exactly. Well, it's probably Donald Trump. I mean, of course, clearly. But at some point, that leaves the opportunity for more people to wake up and be like, did your mandates increase these deaths? Did you forcing people to get a vaccine that they did not need cause these deaths. Like, not saying that that's what it is, YouTube, but I'm saying it leaves more opportunity for questions. So at the end of the day, they have no benefit and they only have things to lose by reporting on this right now.
Hmm. Well, the big question that I have, maybe some of you listeners have, is do you think they're going to try and wheel COVID back out, or are they like, the people are kind of over it? Because for the longest time, literally the last 2 years, the last 3 years, all of the different variants, and we knew them by name. There was Optimus Prime and X-Ray 5000 and whatever other crazy, stupid COVID variants. Are they going to wheel it back out, kind of Joe Biden-ish, muttering around? Are they going to try something different? Or do they not care because we have electronic voting and they don't really need a crisis? We're still voting by mail in places where vote by mail is literally illegal and in the state's constitution. But they're just like, screw it, we do what we want. You know, do what you want when you poppin'. That's what John Chris would say. The Democrats are popping, so they're doing what they want.
Yeah. I don't know if this is something that they would try again, at least not to this extent. They would definitely have to change their strategy. But clearly, there are people that still believe this whole, everything. There are people that are still acting like it is March 15th of 2020, that we don't know anything, that we don't have information, that we don't have a vaccine, that we don't have treatments, that nobody knows what's going on. I mean, I've seen, there was a video of I want to say it was a public meeting of some kind in San Francisco. And this was recent. This was within the last week, where they were all wearing masks, all of them. So
solid.
There's still a little bit there for them to work with. But I think for the most part, if they're going to use COVID again, I don't see how it's going to work. But then again, there's a lot of people that just aren't learning, and they never cease to amaze me. So I guess never say never.
Same. Oh, man. You guys. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him think, as they say.
Is that what they say?
I just decided right now. That's what they say. All right. Well, here's another story, guys. So many things are going to happen this year. Honestly, we don't have a crystal ball. We know it's going to be crazy. It's going to be ridiculous. And instead of trying to predict the things that are going to happen, we want to look at what has happened, because we have this goldfish brain in our society. I do it too. I'm sure Samantha does it. But we have about a 10-day long memory. I ate a bunch of granola before the stream, which was a terrible idea. Like popcorn. Like no popcorn because it'll be in your throat. Granola is the same way, so excuse me.
I want everybody to know this is not a Stanley. Go ahead.
My wife has a Stanley. My wife has a beautiful Stanley. It's like all etched, laser etched with roses and stuff from Etsy. But it's not pink. She does not have a pink Stanley. She did not stand in line anywhere. I bought it for her for something, birthday, or yeah, I think birthday. Got it from Etsy. But we're not going to try and predict what all is going to happen, but we need to remember what has happened and be honest about it, because we freak out. We freak the heck out. Not just, we can't blame the left, you know. We're going to talk about post 9/11 America, and Republicans, conservatives, we were clamoring for it too. Oh, take my civil liberties, give me more security, please. We were literally calling for it. So let's talk about it. First crisis of note that changed the world that, you know, we live in, that historians will probably look back and say, this is actually when the Republic, the United States, died. It's probably August of 2002, Patriot Act time. But, you know, 9/11. 9/11 happens. George Bush is in the White House. He's making the hard calls. Everyone's calling for war. We don't know who to have war with, but screw it. You know, blank check. Let's just get this thing started. So they say that 9/11, the global war on terror, was over 20 years and it cost $8 trillion and caused 900 deaths. That's the official narrative. This is Brown. This is the Ivy League. This is Claudine Gay's like strata up here. Well, apparently Brown University is just as dumb as Harvard, or they know what they're doing and they're actually lying to you. The actual cost of this war, which we don't always want to use Wikipedia, but the wiki on this is really good. So I should have linked it in the show notes. Darn it, Joe. But if you would type in war on terror in Wikipedia and look at it, it's got sites out the wazoo, cites and citations. But, I actually looked through them. I only included legitimate ones, so just take my word for it. In reality, it costs north of $20 trillion, and they say that there were 900,000 casualties, okay? Whenever they use that number, they know that they're lying to you. They being mainstream media or whatever politician is telling you that it wasn't that bad. They're saying that we actually targeted and intentionally killed 900,000-ish people, 937,000 maybe. And that's true. But the collateral damage, the other people who died while we were executing, say, one terrorist here, one terrorist there, is 4.5 million. Nobody's talking about that. So 20 years, countless combat injuries, PTSD, which I refuse to say PTS. I don't like that they're renaming everything. We got 930,000 bad guys killed, but we also killed 3.7 million whoopsie-daisy people were just there. And we displaced 38 million people from their homes. Thousands of American families destroyed. I think some years it was something like 40,000 American casualties. I had that number up here. And for that, we got the Patriot Act. We got an out-of-control, ridiculous, national intelligence state that's not outward-facing, but inward-facing, as made famous by the NSA's screw-ups with their crazy FISA cases and their surveillance programs, PRISM. But everybody knows about PRISM, about this one, and Ed Snowden and all that. But hardly anyone talks about, because the media doesn't want to talk about, is what they call upstreaming, upstream collection. So normal programs for data collection is when they go and they tap into the back end of or not normal. Normal is they're getting it from the air. They're taking communication sucked out of the air, the actual communication waves. But they also have a back end into the digital infrastructure of the internet, of the phone companies, which they call upstream. And the reason that I bring this up, because zoom into this, because of the 5 major programs, PRISM being one, PRISM was not an upstream program, but of the 4 major upstream programs, 3 of them were domestic, completely inward facing, which is nuts. So for 9/11, we got the almost 40 million people displaced. We got 20 plus years of war. We got tens of thousands of American soldiers killed. We've got millions of American soldiers with debilitating injuries and mental health issues and those crises that we deal with at home. We got 937-ish thousand bad guys killed. Woo! But whoopsie daisy, we also killed 3.7 million other people that just happened to be there. We got the Patriot Act. We got the NSA spying on Americans with 1 program that you heard of and 3 programs that you've never heard of. But here they are. Go take a look. It's in the book, Reading Rainbow. And we got, I think, so Department of Homeland Security, I think 26 new intelligence agencies, Office of the Director of National Intelligence. So are we in a better place? Is this what we wanted, needed?
All of this surveillance on us, I mean, sign me up. They're just missing the partridge in a pear tree. You know,
Really?
it call me crazy, but every time, because I think, probably the premise for a lot of these programs is we're going to keep you safe, we're going to keep an eye on the bad guys, and that is why we need these things. I mean, you saw what happened to 9/11. We don't want that to happen again. So we need to be able to have access to every aspect of your life to make sure that doesn't happen again. And most people are going to be like, okay. So I'm not really, but I don't know that I trust the agenda, the motivation behind this level of surveillance. Because it turns out generally they're not just looking at criminals, they're not just looking at people that are engaging in questionable behavior. This is really about us, because I mean, and this is kind of off to the side a little bit, but with how many people we have caught that we know of looking at inappropriate material online, and the increasing fit for child material that is inappropriate, you would think with this level of surveillance that every single person engaging in that would be behind bars. And the fact that they're not makes me question, what is the purpose? Because these people are still out there. This market is getting bigger.
So
And that's just
what
one
you're
example.
saying is, if the government is spying on all the king's horses and all the king's men, their phones, their Alexas, all of their laptops and all that stuff, then how is it that they don't know about all of Epstein's homeboys? And it's
Right.
nonsense. They know. They don't
Yeah.
care.
Yep. Yeah.
We
So the fact
we
that we still have
prosecute.
all of this.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, we prosecute tens of thousands of people for all of the crimes that don't make the top 10 crimes list, but still, we only process a few hundred, maybe as many as 2,000 human traffickers a year. And it's outrageous. It just makes me want to scream.
Well, yeah. And considering not only that, over the last few years, 3 years to be specific, crime in every aspect of life has skyrocketed. It has gone absolutely through the roof. And you're telling me, with all of these things, with eyes on every household in the US, that they don't have a better grip on this stuff? I have a lot of question, guys. I mean, as far as the technology is clearly there. The technology and the ability to get a handle on these things is there. And I have a lot of concerns and questions about, with the limitations of this being run by human beings, what's going to happen when with the advancements of AI. And are we going to actually see this being applied to the people who deserve it? Or is this going to be increased surveillance on those of us who sat back and said, sure, you told me that this is for my safety and my protection, just keep going? So I don't know about this.
Well, all of this stuff happened because of emergencies. This is not an emergency, but shout out to AJ Sanchez and Matisse Pro, who just subscribed on Rumble. Thank you, guys. They did all this because of emergency. 9/11 happened. It was terrible. We could have a whole nother conversation about that. But at the end of the day, 3,000 Americans were murdered by someone. It was an emergency. It was a crisis. People were scared. I remember getting ripped out of school, and we didn't really go back to school. The phone lines were just jammed for, it seemed like days, like 5 days, but it was probably more like 2 days. I think my memory's not clear on that. But it's important to remember that, because then we have the emergency of 2020. The real emergency was Donald Trump was going to win in a landslide, but we had the emergency of COVID, international pandemic. For that, we got lockdowns, we got mandates, we got medical dictatorship, which is literally what happened. We got a disregard for law and order, where we would get citations. if you think the wrong way, you'd get citations for walking outside, for opening your business, for pursuing your personal happiness. You would get arrested or cited thousands of dollars for it. Meanwhile, BLM are having, racial justice riots. They're causing $1 billion of damage out west and in their own cities, which doesn't make any sense. Kyle Rittenhouse is out there, stacking bodies. All that's going on. Election law, out the window. They're still doing that today. Ballot harvesting, which ballot harvesting used to be really looked at as a bad thing. And now everyone's like, we got to do it. The Republicans are like, we got to do it if we want to have a chance to win. We've got mass mail-in voting, which it shouldn't be legal anywhere. But even where it's illegal, state statute or state constitution, they're still doing it. So we do not have a system of law and order. And yeah, I already said the unprecedented ballot harvesting. So think about what we got for 9/11. Think about what we got because of COVID. Now think the Democrats, the left, their back is against the wall. They don't have a candidate to run right now. Joe Biden's not going to be able to beat Donald Trump, even though he's the most popular guy, 83 bajillion votes or whatever. More votes than American citizens. That's a joke, YouTube. But that's called sarcasm. And that's actually not true. There's 337 million Americans. But anyway, I digress. The question is, what are we going to get? Because they're already showing their hand. They've created a new class. Oh, that's the wrong link. They've created a new class. Another thing mainstream media is not talking about. But months ago, like back in October, the FBI and the Department of Injustice created a new class of violent domestic extremists, and that class is literally called Trump supporters / MAGA. So I'm going to tell you right now, if you were listening to this, if you were watching this, you guys that are thumbsing this up, you were on the list. Guaranteed. I was at January 6th. I know I'm on the list, and I'm a podcaster. So they're definitely like, Samantha, girl, you were on the list. Your whole family's on the list. Just, yeah. It's a wrap.
Yeah. It's okay. It's going to be okay, guys.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know if it's gulags, but they are going to be arresting. We talked about that tweet last week with DC Attorney General. No, not DC Attorney General. DC State Attorney, I guess, saying that we are going to continue to go after J6ers, and now we are expanding into people that we know did not go into the building. So I'm still waiting for the knock at the door because I was there, didn't go in the building. Just I was way far away from the building, actually, but
were you like AOC far away from the building?
That's good. I was actually closer than AOC. I could smell the CS gas in the air. That's when I was like, oh, I don't know what's going on over there, but we're getting out of here.
Right.
So
I mean, should I be worried because I was invited to go to Jet? Like I couldn't even tell
electronically, like a text or tweet or an email.
I don't even remember. It may have been a Facebook conversation. I really don't remember. I just remember somebody, because that was just after the election. I had run for office. I did not win, but they were trying to encourage, even though didn't win, some of the candidates to go. And I said I was kind of interested in going, and then I ended up not, because I was like, meh, I'm just gonna stay home. So I'm like, I was invited.
You're screwed. If anyone sent you the little flyer, these are the things that are going to get you, because they're saying that it was premeditated. It was a planned insurrection. So if you remember, there were those little flyers going around, and it showed like the 8 different speeches, protests, demonstrations, and stuff like that. You could go. It was like there was like a pro-life group. There was like a bring back law and order group. There were the people at the Ellipse listening to Trump. That's where I was. There were people who started their protest at the Capitol. They were like 8 protests for 2 days. And if you got any of those things texted to you or sent to you on Facebook, Twitter, wherever, you're on the list. You're on the naughty list. Yeah. I can tell you right now.
Yeah. I don't even remember. I don't. But I'm sure somebody from the FBI will tell me. They'll send a nice little reminder soon. But yeah, it's unbelievable.
Here's my 2 cents on that. The things that you guys need to do, as always, you need to come out of the conservative closet. You're not doing anyone any favors, including yourself being in there. Everyone always says this, but I'm going to say it because I believe it. I do believe that this is, if not the last chance, I'm talking, you probably got maybe 10 years worth of chances, which is obviously just 2.5 presidencies. But the thing that I think everyone should do, I truly think that this could help, not registering voters, not door knocking, phone banking, all of the conventional stuff for elections, I think is trash this year. I do not believe we have elections. I'm probably going to say it every episode. Samantha, you're going to get tired of me saying it. But I do not believe we have elections while we have all this electronic voting. So what you should do, you right now listening to this, you should petition your county and your state to ban electronic voting. And that is what you should do. I'm going to be doing an entire series of YouTube videos on how to make and organize petitions and get them across the finish line. And there are different requirements based on where you live, and there will be different requirements for your counties and for your state. But everywhere you can petition that has election authority, which is usually, a lot of cities don't, but usually counties and states have the election, how our elections are going to run authority. I hate that Virginia got electronic voting and all of the Smartmatic and the Dominion nonsense. But that's what I think that you should spend 2024 doing. I think you should do it right now. I love Scott Pressler, great dude. Enjoyed having coffee with you, man, out here in Loudoun County. I think that your efforts are wasted because of the electronic voting. Javon Pulitzer thinks that, and he's a genius. He knows this stuff. So Samantha, last thoughts about the election, and then we're moving into I don't know, sudden death. I guess that's your topic though.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard because I know that even it's only January 11th right now, and
yeah.
We're already talking about how dire things look for the election in 11 months. But I don't think that it can be understated how important local involvement is. Just doing, all the things that you just said, getting to know, the local officials, the people that your conservative leaders, people that are leading these petitions, and just trying to do everything that they possibly can to get people involved, get people registered the right way, and do everything we can to make this as legitimate as a process as possible. I mean, if we just throw in the towel now, then we may as well just, CNN's already called the election for Joe Biden. So
yeah.
And Fox News has called the election.
Don't send out the ballots, call the electors.
Yeah, exactly. We can't do that. We can't throw in the towel yet. I mean, we're here to, be as honest as possible. But I think, like I said, I don't think it can be understated how important it is to get involved with people that are directly around you and not focus as much on what's going on in Washington, D.C. And that's part of the reason that I ran for office in 2020 is because I just feel like our local leaders and our local efforts are so incredibly significant when we spend so much more time focusing on a national level and what's happening at a federal level, when it's really our local communities that matter, that really make the difference. So I agree.
I don't have anything else to say about elections, guys. I don't know what to tell you.
At least not this time. We'll have more bad news next week.
Honestly, you all don't know how hard it is. An hour flies by, so you don't know how hard it is to pick the topics because, like, a blind man could throw a rock and hit a great news story these days. I don't know what reporters do except for the government's propaganda agenda. Um, but it's hard to figure out what exactly to talk about. I thought remembering the crises of the past and what all we lost was important for this week because it's coming. This whole year up through October is going to be nonsense. So remember, folks.
Well, and I think just to that point, as we see more of this effort to erase history and to tear down monuments and to get rid of anything that reminds us of the past, because when we have these things up, we get an accurate picture of what happened. But when you can take the monuments down and erase history, then you have the opportunity to erase it and rewrite it. And that's what we want to keep from happening. So I think it's really important to bring up these things so that people don't forget and we can pass these things along to our kids.
Oh gosh, what did I do?
I don't know, but
I just hit something. Why do they make this button so small? All right, here we go.
We are professionals.
This is so annoying. Anyway, you can take it away with the next story.
Well, as Joe said, it is really difficult sometimes to pick stories to talk about. And sometimes, we're talking about elections, we're talking about the border, we're talking about more of these like political, policy issues, things that are going on with the government. But then we also have to include some of the things that are going on culturally, because unfortunately, that seems to drive people more than policy and leadership and all of these other things. So I came across this video. I believe that, Libs of TikTok shared something, and then a few other people were talking about it. But I have a lot of concerns, as we were just talking about COVID. I have even more concerns about the medical industry, and the more that we see what medicine looks like going forward and in the future, I'm really honestly convinced that they're just trying to kill us all. So, the end. No. So I came across
That's it. Good luck against. You got to fight AI. You got to fight the government. You got to fight the medical industry. Apparently.
Right. Thoughts and prayers, guys.
Yeah. That's the show. Good night.
So I came across this video. This was from Libs of TikTok, and part of it was also from a video that Matt Walsh did. But according to an internal medicine doctor that works at Cedars-Sinai Hospital, it is perfectly okay to be fat and unhealthy. So Libs of TikTok shared a video of this doctor. I actually want to show the other one first. Did I link the YouTube video of mine?
Yep.
Did I share that one with you? That one. So this one I think is important to listen to beforehand. But just as a lead up, this doctor, I believe the hospital is in Seattle, but I could be wrong. She posted a video on TikTok discussing everything that she has learned about being a doctor from TikTok, about essentially treating overweight and obese people like they're not overweight and obese. So, and if you want to refer to the Twitter page of the Cedars-Sinai Hospital, this hospital where this doctor works has been ranked as the best hospital by US News 8 years in a row. So that's terrifying. That's terrifying. So I clipped this video from another video, but essentially what she is responding to is a woman saying that she doesn't like to be weighed at her doctor's appointments or doesn't like to be asked about her weight or something like that. And this is this doctor's response to it.
One of the things I've learned as a doctor on TikTok is how many people are going to the doctor and just being told to lose weight. I have always known, trust me, that weight can be a source of shame and stigma and something that actually stops people from going to the doctor because they want to go get help with their problems, but they don't want to be weighed. They don't want to get a lecture on how they need to lose weight, especially when they're things that have nothing to do with their weight. And people want to avoid that lecture on weight loss when they just want help with their nausea or something. I think learning from all of you creators and commenters how big of a problem this is has really made an impression on me, and quite frankly has changed my practice. So I actually ask patients if it is okay to talk about weight. If they don't want to be weighed at an appointment, that is okay. We actually are changing our electronic health record to make it so weight isn't even printed out on their discharge paperwork if they don't want to see it. Because this is crazy. You should be able to go to a doctor for a legitimate health concern and not have it blamed on your weight. This is not okay.
I think that's great. I want her to be my doctor.
One of the things.
Oh my gosh. Does anybody else see a problem with this? First of all, everybody gets weighed when we go to the doctor. Everybody. It does not matter what you look like. It doesn't matter if you walk in and you are the most fit person. If this doctor, who clearly looks like a supermodel, she is going to get weighed when she goes to the doctor. This is not a stigma. This is not something that is meant to shame you. And if you do feel shame, that's a you thing. But how is your doctor going to address your issues if they cannot take a full, get a comprehensive view of what your health
Can't say
looks
full.
like?
Can't say comprehensive. It's too weighty.
Oh, full. Sorry. It blows my mind because according to the CDC, the leading cause of death in America are obesity-related diseases. Yet we now have doctors who are prioritizing the experiences of people who go on TikTok and whine about being weighed instead of doing what doctors are supposed to do, which is to get to the root cause of your problems and help you correct it. They're going by, there's some people on TikTok that have had their feelings hurt about being weighed. So now if somebody comes into my office who is clearly overweight, if they don't want to talk about their weight, we're going to pretend that they're not overweight.
Can we just talk about an elephant in the room for 5 seconds? So
I was hoping you would say that.
This chick is a doctor, and she's getting her information to help inform her practice from TikTok. We're a couple of yahoos on the internet, and we're going to the Lancet Regional Health Journal. What the heck is going on? Like, are you serious? Like, we gave you better medically relevant and informed medicine advice, not a doctor, not giving health advice you should take, but the doctor is getting their, how am I going to treat my patients from TikTok? That's insane. The most important things for medical practice are symptoms, medical history, family history. Sorry, guys. You got to get weighed. Changes in weight can be a symptom. How the heck are they supposed to figure that out if they can't weigh you?
Yeah. Well, and I mean, she said if someone comes in with a legitimate health concern like nausea, it's like, you know what? If you are overweight and you have nausea, I'm going to ask what you've been eating. So it just blows my mind because she said, these weight things are related to stigma and all of these things. It's like, you know what else they're related to? Diabetes, heart disease, cancer, premature death. Like, there's a lot of things that it's related to, but I have concerns because if you look at this, I went to her TikTok page and she had posted something about, it was around the time that Roe v. Wade was overturned. And she said that women are not the only people that are affected by this, but trans men and non-binary people are affected by it as well. And that is, so that's just kind of the tone of her entire page. And, so this training is coming from somewhere. this is the way doctors are being trained now. And they're bragging about being, Gen Z, the next generation of doctors who are more progressive in their thinking, who are more open to change. And it's like, you're going to get us all killed. Can you think of any other, like, a positive outcome for teaching our doctors to practice medicine this way?
I mean, I think this chick probably complains about the dentist saying you need to brush and floss, maybe cut down on the sweets. And, what does she think about the profession? What do these people think about the professions? Personal trainer, dietitian. Is dietitian like a bad word, like a Nazi? Or a nutritionist? My chiropractor gives me more sound medical advice than this lady. Oh,
Yeah.
man.
But I've seen so many videos with stuff like this in it, and it just blows my mind how many people have to die before we realize that our doctors are now being trained to allow us to die. Because you know what makes me feel more shame than being fat? Being dead. So, it just blows my mind, because I think I said last week, we look at these activists that are sitting in the middle of the freeway and blocking traffic and doing all these crazy things, and we think that is the extent of, like, that's the worst part of activism, these obnoxious people that scream and yell in public and throw tantrums. To me, this is the worst part of activism, because every single system in the United States right now is being infiltrated with activists who, in their training through these left-wing universities, have been programmed to steer people in the direction of mental illness and drug dependency and complete delusion. So there's a reason for all this. There's an agenda. It's not for our benefit, guys.
Shameless plug here on my YouTube channel and my Rumble. I just posted a video, this one right here, America's Failed Standards. This is about the JFK's La Sierra PE program that they did in some 3,000 schools. I said 1,000 in the video. That was not correct. It was 3,000. But look at these kids. Look. Gosh. Yeah, guys, we need to. I mean, what's more dangerous? The news will have you believe the opposite here. But what's more dangerous in America right now today? A box of donuts or white supremacy? The data says the donuts.
A white supremacist eating a donut.
You're on fire tonight.
I'm on one.
Oh, that needs to be a t-shirt. A white supremacist eating a donut.
It's wrong. We're sitting here laughing, but it is so wrong and so evil. But it just blows my mind that people can be programmed to feel this way. That if I want to walk into my doctor's office and I weigh 400 pounds, that I can just tell my doctor we are not allowed to address this, and they have to pretend that this issue does not exist.
The weirdest part about it is, because we're laughing and we're poking fun, but the reason that we care, Samantha and I, and a lot of you listening, the reason that we care is because we know that this is going to cause harm to these people. Her patients are being harmed by this. Mm-hmm. They're being intentionally led off of the path of health and longevity and living to see their children's children. They're being led to feel good. Oh, let me hold your hand and rub your back and you'll be dead at 35.
Yeah.
And we don't want that for them.
Exactly. They think that people like us who are like, hey, we need to acknowledge the reality of the fact that maybe you have a little bit of extra weight on your body or whatever it is. And so that you can get to the root of why you are not feeling well, or so that you can figure out what it is that is going to make you healthy. But if we can't be honest about that, there are so many things that are going to go unaddressed and untreated, and you're going to be miserable. You're going to feel sick. and you're essentially being led right off a cliff, and lying to you is what is pushing people off of that cliff. It's the same as when people go in and they're like, I am not comfortable with you calling me by the pronouns that align with my biological sex, or you have to, even though I'm a biological woman, you have to treat me as though I'm a biological man. It's like, do you know how many physical conditions are related just to how your body is made biologically? Like, men and women's bodies function completely differently, and it can set the entire treatment plan and the entire medical process just based on that one factor alone. But if we are forced to lie to people and ignore reality, you may as well just drop them off the cliff now. And I don't want that to happen to people. But if you're training doctors to do that, there has got to be some kind of agenda behind it to make that happen, because there is no positive benefit to this.
100% agree. 100%
Anyway,
agree.
Speaking of trying to kill us, want to talk about the airlines?
I laughed out loud when I was in my kitchen with my kids when you dropped this in, and I had not heard it. And I just busted out laughing. I was like, this can't be what I think it is. And then I read what you wrote. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the stupidest thing. I'm so glad that I barely have to fly anymore. But yeah, so tell us about, this is ridiculous. I can't believe this is real, but here we are in Clown World America.
Yep. This segment is DEI in the sky. This is how we're choosing our
bed. Oh. All right.
So
I got it together.
Okay. Because we've joked about DEI. We've talked about how there's these policies where people seem to prioritize skin color and race and, minority status over actual skill. And it's been a really easy thing to make jokes about, but we're like, okay, there's got to be a line. There's got to be a point where they're like, okay, we have to prioritize skill. We have to say who is the best person for this job, regardless of what they look like, because people's lives will be at stake if we try and go down this DEI route. No. Apparently, that's not the standard for these people. So airlines are now, these practices have been in play for a while, but I think it's just coming to light more and more how much of their hiring practices are now focused on DEI. And they have no problem letting us know that their new standards prioritize skin color and biological sex over how qualified that person is to fly the airplane that is carrying hundreds of people 30,000 feet in the sky. So I shared, did you get the YouTube link? There was this clip of a documentary that Southwest Airlines did, I think in 2022. And I caught this off another video, but this is essentially kind of their, advertising video or their virtue signaling video, but let's have a look at this real quick.
Take off with a student from United's new Aviate Academy. A bit nervous, but let's do this. Purefoy is training to become a pilot with United Airlines, which became the first major airline to launch its own flight school at the beginning of this year. But United is making another push. It said half of its recruits are going to be women or people of color. A pretty ambitious goal for airline pilots who are 93% white and 95% male. Black women make up less than 1% of the pilot industry.
I have a confession, guys. I have never seen a black woman fly a plane. What made you want to become a pilot?
So I was a flight attendant for 3 years at a major U.S. airline, and absolutely loved it.
So we are in a plane right now, about to take off.
Okay.
I've said it before, but I'll say it again. If your race or your gender or your sexuality is the basis of your whole existence, if it's race, you're a racist. If it's any of those other things, you're a bigot. That is a fact. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay. I just have to say that I feel so comfortable with the fact that this woman was inspired to become a pilot after serving peanuts in the cabin for 3 years. So definitely qualified to fly that airplane. And I didn't get a chance to include too many links in this one because I was like, do we really want to talk about this? But there have been an unusual number of incidents and issues with airplanes lately,
Yep.
with things just like falling off the plane. There have been like doors falling off, and oh man, I was gonna send
There have
you
been
a
some
link.
really interesting. I just in my guys chat these unqualified air traffic controllers having arguments with pilots on the open air because that's appropriate, but they're DEI
Right.
hires.
Right. No, there was one, man, I wish I had sent it to you. It was you could hear this pilot having a conversation with the air traffic controller, and he was trying to give her instructions, and she was like, "No, this is how you do it. I Googled it."
Yeah. Oh, did you Google it? Duns Kruger over there. I'm an actual pilot. Like, what the
Exactly.
crap? Hey, you
And
know what?
I
Just walk me through how to land the plane since you've got Google and a headset.
exactly. Like, clearly you don't need me at all because you have got Google. I this does not bring me any, and like I said, I thought that we were going to have a line drawn somewhere. How many planes have to fall out of the sky? Are they going to acknowledge at that point that these policies are terrible? Or are they going to find some way to blame it on white supremacists? Find some way to point the finger in another direction, because this is dangerous. This is absolutely insane. And clearly, and I don't think I need to explain this, but clearly this is not saying that people that have darker skin tones are incapable of flying airplanes. If she's wondering why there aren't more Black women flying airplanes, maybe there's just not enough Black women that are interested in becoming pilots. It's not that the opportunity is not there. It's not that they're not
Thank you.
capable. It's that
Thank
it's
you
that
for saying that.
this might not be something that Black women or women in general, because it is a male-dominated space, that women are
Let's be
interested in
honest.
doing.
Let's be honest, okay? Black people, we don't like flying, period. We don't. We don't like flying.
Is that
We don't like
legitimately a
swimming.
thing?
We don't like the cold. That's why there's not a bunch of black ice hockey skaters. It's not because we can't ice skate. I can ice skate, but I hate the cold. I said the same thing that you just said about the pilot thing, about the generals. Oh, there aren't enough black generals. All of my black soldiers that had degrees, I'm like, hey, you want to become an officer? You know what they all said? Hell no. I said the same thing. I got 2 degrees. They asked me, hey, you want to become an officer? You should be an officer. You should be. I said, no, I don't want to do that. And then when I finally, after a decade in the Army, I was like, hey, I'll think about it. And then it seemed that they were hell-bent on pushing me out of the military at that point. That's a whole nother conversation. But black people, we don't want to be generals. We don't want to be pilots. They would need to make you, especially black women. Black women, you don't like flying in. I'm so glad you said that, because I'm like, I come from a big black family. I don't know if you guys could tell. Maybe you're a podcast listener. I am black. Like, no. Nope. We like to be.
Yeah.
We like to be on the ground, inside, climate-controlled environment.
I didn't know that was a thing, but okay. I mean, but there's nothing wrong with that. So how are they going to fill 50% of their positions and make sure that they have this equally diverse, only diversity in look only, in appearance only? How are they going to make this happen? And it's the same when women and feminists and people like Pearl Davis, who's annoying as whatever, that say that we need more women on the oil rigs, or we need more women doing construction, or we need, it's
luck.
like, I don't want to be on an oil rig. Not only that, putting more women on oil rigs makes that job more dangerous because it involves a lot of physical strain that is more suited to men. So, and that is perfectly fine. That is perfectly fine. But anyway, This is how.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just. Go ahead. It's fine.
I'm just waiting for. Ding. Ladies and gentlemen, your pilot hasn't really passed flight school, but she's a black lesbian, so best of luck. I've got a parachute. This is your captain. Ding.
And if they're flying out of New York, they're like, woo!
Black lesbian pilot, let's go! Famous last words.
Exactly. And I shared a tweet that, I don't know who this guy is, Ron Filipkowski, because Donald Trump Jr., I mean, this has been a topic across Twitter for the last couple of days, but Donald Trump Jr. created this video and he went on and on about how this is ridiculous. Like, let's just make sure that whoever is the pilot is the most qualified to be there. And this guy's like, Junior is worried that planes are going to start crashing because there aren't as many white male airline pilots as there used to be. And I'm just like, listen up, you hemorrhoid. Like, this is a legitimate concern. I don't care. You know what? I don't think I have ever been on an airplane where I've actually like seen the pilot before we take off. They're in the cockpit, they're getting everything ready, and I'm perfectly fine with that. Never thought twice about what that person looked like. My only thought is, am I going to die? Get me home safe.
I've never been on a plane and the pilot walks on and I go, gee, Willikers, I wonder if you were born a man. I wonder if your spouse is the same gender as you. I wonder, I could give two craps. I don't care. I don't care. It's not important. We weren't raised that way. I'm so tired of everyone born before 2000. I'm so tired of you pretending that we were born in this Hitlerian, racist, terrible place. It was not like that at all. All of our friends were every color of the freaking rainbow, spoke multiple languages, and we grew up without all the nonsense. And then these idiots in the Ivy League said, we have to let oppression and race and all this other stuff run our lives because of injustices, and we're on stolen land and all this stuff. And you all just went crazy and just went for it. And I'm completely over it. Because it's not going to stop. Every time we think it's going to stop, Samantha sends me something. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's getting worse.
And I'm like, and we're all going to die. We're not even going to survive to get to the next election. I mean, why even talk about it?
I'm just waiting for that trumpet in the sky. I'll tell you what, Euphrates, dry up, and Jesus, let's do this thing.
Yeah, put on your sandals and get down here.
Really? You think he's barefoot in heaven?
Probably. It's probably all soft and squishy up there.
Heaven would be barefoot for my wife. She just loves being barefoot. She's also pregnant, so I guess that means barefoot and pregnant. But
yeah.
That's not my choice.
Did you say she's pregnant right now?
Yeah.
What?
Oh, you don't know that we're pregnant?
No.
Surprise! Well, oh yeah,
to be clear, you and her are not pregnant. Sorry.
Let me take my little back support out. What are you
and
talking
I'm sure
about?
I'm sure that she would like to remind you, no, we are not pregnant.
Listen, I did the maximum a husband can do. I'm a certified Bradley birthing coach. That's the maximum us husbands can do. But yes, my lovely wife Eliza, is pregnant. We're about 19 weeks, so we don't know what yet. If it's a boy or a girl, those are the two options in case you guys are confused.
You have to wait until kindergarten so the teacher can tell you. Oh wait, you homeschool.
We homeschool.
You're off the hook. You're safe.
Why do we live in the crazy upside down world?
I don't know. But don't go see that doctor at the Seattle hospital.
Oh, screw that.
Yeah.
Judy, we need to bring back Leave It to Beaver. Life was simpler then.
I know. I didn't even live during that time and I miss it.
Oh, I watched all the old shows. The Facts of Life, Laverne and Shirley. I wasn't even alive when these shows came out, but they were so good.
I know. Oh my gosh, the crap that they have on TV now and the YouTube videos, I'm like, what is this garbage?
And again, I'm going to use some math here. I know math is racist, but guys, if black people are 13% of the population, then that means if a show has 100 cast members, about 13 of them should be black. That's representative, not 50. Or if a show has 10 people on it, one black person is representative of America. 2 would be 20%. That's a big roundup from 13. But anyway, I know math is racist and hard, but if you can remember fractions and if you can remember basic arithmetic, 13%. If 3 out of the 10 cast members are black, that's 30%. That's huge. That's like inflation. That's like Biden inflation on anyway. But I digress.
Well, I think that is all of the bad news we have for you guys tonight. So don't go to the doctor. Don't get on an airplane. You might die.
And don't waste your year door knocking and phone banking and all of that stuff. Petition those 2 forms of government, local and state, so your state and your county. Petition them to ban electronic voting where you live. I don't even care so much about the mail-in voting if it's an actual paper ballot that gets counted by a person, not by a machine. Anyway, if we could get that done, we'd be like France or Argentina.
I need my ballot to be counted by a black person.
Black lesbians for... Well, all right. That is the plot. all we got, guys. Thank you so much. If you are still around, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to this channel, The Joe Mobley Show, on YouTube, on Rumble, on podcast. When you're done with that, go over to Outspoken Samantha on YouTube, on Rumble, on Facebook. Outspoken Samantha, make sure you're subscribed. Great content coming out like every day, every other day. I don't know how she does it, but she does. That's all we got for you guys. We will see you live next week. Now to him who is able to do immeasurably more than all we ask or imagine, according to his power that is at work within us. To him be the glory in the church and in Christ Jesus throughout all generations, forever and ever. Amen. If that was the first prayer you've ever prayed, I hope it won't be the last. Until next time, this is The Joe Mobley Show.